Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. My name's Emily. I'm a campaign lead at Virtual. And before I introduce you to the whole team at Antipodes Gin, I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land from which I'm beaming to you from today. So Virtual is based on the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. So today I'm joined by Rory, Shane, and Brad from the Antipodes Gin Company. Thank you so much for joining us. Before I hand over to the team, I'd just like to give a little bit of background information on Virtual. So we are working with Antipodes Gin on their upcoming crowdsourced funding offer. So for a lot of people, crowdsourced funding or CSF can be quite new, or you might know it as equity crowdfunding. So it's a relatively new form of fundraising in Australia, and it allows startups and small businesses to raise capital from a large number of smaller or retail investors, as well as wholesale or sophisticated investors through an online platform such as Virtual. So instead of seeking funding from traditional sources such as banks or venture capitalists, also known as VCs, companies can turn to the general public, and that's often their communities, to raise money in exchange for equity in their business. So Virtual Financial Services will be the licensed intermediary for this offer. I'd also like to advise that the information and discussion in this webinar is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as financial advice or a recommendation to invest. So please, I would implore you to do your own research. Always consider the offer document and the general CSF risk warning before investing, and also reach out to the team at Antipodes if you've got any questions, or the team at virtual.com who can help you out with anything that you may need. So for today's session, the beautiful team over at Antipodes Gin are going to take us through a great presentation, which will run for approximately 15 minutes, and this will encapsulate a little bit of where they come from, what they're looking to do with their capital raise, and then we'll switch to a Q&A session. So if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a little Q&A bubble. So if you've got any questions during today's session, please pop it in the box as we go along, and we'll get those answered at the end. We're also recording today's session, so if you do have to jump off at any time, a recording will be sent around. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to the team at Antipodes. Please take it away.
Thanks so much, Emily. I'll just quickly jump on and share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see that now.
Not yet. Maybe you have to press share screen.
Yep.
There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
We're gin makers, Emily, not technology wizards. Welcome everyone. I'm Rory. I'm one of the founders, and today you'll hear from myself, you'll hear from Shane and Brad. We've also got Rowan, who sits on our advisory board, one of our finance gurus, who can help or maybe answer some questions at the end as well. By the end of this session, we'd love to give you a great feel for our business, who we are, what we do, all about our brand, and importantly, our future growth plans. We've had nearly 600 investors already express an expression of interest. We've had nearly 80 people take up the offer of our investor pack and order some product with a special discount. We're huge advocates of trying before you buy. So we'd love you to make sure you do that as part of your sort of due diligence on our business. And we've spoken to hundreds of people over the last week and a bit. Probably some of you are on the call. I know there was a lot of people interested in the webinar, and obviously our offer documents go out next week, which will have a lot more detail in it. But let me take you through the first couple of slides just to give you a bit more of a feel about our business. So we're 9 years old, and we've proudly traded through that period, even though we've had through a few curveballs over that time. We established it in 2015, and we originally did something called gypsy distilling, which is where you use other people's equipment up in the Hunter Valley. And we launched our brand with our Antipodes Original Gin 9 years ago. Since then, we've launched dozens of products and invested in our own distillery in Canberra now, which was a whiskey distillery that we took over. We've grew our distribution. We've sold 100,000 bottles of spirits, and we've had a lot of fun doing it. But over that entire time, we've stayed true to our founding principles that resonate through the business, and you'll see reflected in our brand. And we'll take a bit of time to talk about those because they are what sets us apart. There are a lot of gins on the market, and we really want to talk about, why Antipodes, why do we do the things we do, and what sets us apart from the others. So those principles that we set up were really around low impact, sustainability, and delicious. Ticket to the game in gin, your products have got to taste great. And we proudly know that they do. And hopefully you've had a chance to try them. But apart from having delicious tasting products, two things that are really important to our business is around low impact and sustainability. And we've got two certifications that really support those two core platforms, being certified organic and certified sustainable. And they're annually audited processes. And doing those things really reflect just around the treading lightly piece, which is the certified organic, and sustainability, which is certified sustainable. And look, to be really upfront, we're not making health claims here. We sell alcohol. Certified organic is absolutely about the land where we get products from, and them being free of pesticides and herbicides, etc. We know that a lot of those things can stay in the water systems and farms for a long period of time, and the produce and botanicals we choose to use don't have any of those pesticides attached. So for clarity, because we've had a couple of questions about certified organic, it's not a health claim. It's absolutely about treading lightly on the planet. And then the sustainability angle, we all know where sustainability and the importance of it is heading. 9 years ago when we started the business, it was probably not discussed that often, but it's something that is getting more and more momentum, and it won't go away. It's going to become more important to businesses. In the last 9 years, we've also planted nearly 12,000 trees in the Yarra Yarra Biodiversity Corridor, which is a carbon sink project over in Western Australia, which is a nice thing that we do. And it works out roughly to every 6 bottles that we sell, we plant a tree. And as I mentioned, we're the first distillery in Australia to be certified sustainable, which we believe is a really important thing that sets us apart. So why certified organics and certified sustainable? Like all things come at a spectrum. And some things mean a lot to consumers and some things don't mean a lot at all. But we know, and based on our followers on Instagram and the passionate advocates of our brand, that certified organic and certified sustainable are things that are really important to them. Being one of the only certified organic products on the market and the only certified sustainable distillery, it's really appealing to consumers. But importantly, the gateway to consumers is your retailers. And we're exclusive with Coles Liquor Group. So we're in Vintage Cellars, First Choice, and Liquorland stores. And every retailer, and Coles have it as well, you can look up their sustainability strategy. They want to be having a very low impact as a retailer. So by stocking our products and having products that meet those needs, it's critical to support their retailer strategy as well. So it's not just that we've got a good product with a good margin, we're actually meeting other levels of their business as well around their sustainability targets. One of the great things about our industry, one of the hard things actually as well, is the audit process. So we're audited and scrutinized by the tax office from excise and things like that. It's a highly regulated industry, but we also have two certifications for certified organics and certified sustainable. And that is a independent auditing process where we have inspectors come to the site, understand our processes, our procedures, making sure our quality controls are in place. And apart from allowing us to have those certified sustainable and certified organic claims, it actually makes us as a business super sharp in terms of what we do from a process and a procedural perspective, our sourcing, our paperwork, and just how we run the business in general. You can't phone these audits in. They are rigorous processes, and something that we've been continuing to build and refine over the last 9 years to get our business in a position where we're just getting ready to scale now. The other important thing, we've talked about the retailer, but consumers are becoming more and more aware of brands that are, rising to the challenge of sustainability. And as a consumer myself and as an ex-retailer, consumers are also fundamentally lazy, right? They want brands to do the heavy lifting for them. And that's what we choose to do. We're doing the heavy lifting as a brand to make choices for consumers easier, to make sure they're actually making mindful choices around sustainability, about impact on the planet, and having a great product. And that's backed up by we've got a really highly engaged and loyal social media following. We've got over 32,000 people on social media across Facebook and Instagram. We're a top 5 gin company from a followers perspective. And that's really important to our business. And because it's a tool that we can engage with our followers and have great communication and talk about new product launches, etc. And those elements that I just talked to really set Antipodes apart. When we talk about the 600 plus distilleries that are in Australia, we tread a very different path to a lot of those. I'll now hand over to Brad to give a bit more detail on the distillery itself.
Thanks, Rory. Fortunately, we have 2 sites that we lease up in Canberra, in the suburb of Mitchell. It's an industrial estate there, and they sit both within the same industrial complex. So we're able just to move across a couple of car parks to move any goods between our 2 sites. Our distillery sits on 170 square metres. That has our distillery and our lab area together. And almost next door is our warehouse. That's a 200 square metre site for storage. Our equipment, it's able to produce white spirits and brown spirits. So we have all the equipment capable of doing that. We have a small convertible pot still, 2 large production stills, mash tuns and various tanks, etc. Probably worth noting that all of our equipment we fully own. There's no financing on any of that. At the moment, our distillery has the capacity of about 65,000 bottles per year. And that's really constrained by the power constraints, bottling line, and some of the floor space elements there with the way in which the setup is. We expect that in this financial year that we're probably going to get to a capacity of about 40% of the total capacity. But with our growth ambitions, we expect that in the short term will be that capacity will be becoming critical. One of the important things that we'd like to look at around the investment is that bottling line constraint that we have in that area. With respect to the warehouse, we manage our own logistics, so all of our larger orders are distributed from there, also web orders, etc., that hopefully a few of you have taken on in the past week or so. And we have some direct-to-store stuff that comes from there as well. We've designed our warehouse such that it has the ability to hold up to 100 barrels in the future. It also holds all our finished goods and all our components, etc. So all the racking in there has been set out ready for that. It also has the capacity to fit in some larger amounts of components such as glass, etc. So we can bring in some larger orders of that within the warehouse. That was probably the summary there. I was going to hand over to Shane.
Hello, thanks for joining us. Yeah, so the core range, we've got, the 8 products. There's 4 on screen at the moment. Our 700 ml core range represents 80% of our sales. We've also got we've got some smaller SKUs, some 200 mls and some gift pack that we bring out on occasion throughout the year. So 50% of the sales of that comes from the 2 that you can see on the screen now, the original gin, or as we refer to as the original gin, and the pink gin. So within this core range, of course, it's complete, like at this stage, it's a vegan friendly range. So we make with, because of our sugar-based, sugar-based neutral, and also there's no dairy or fish or eggs or any of those sort of products within the sort of the liquid. So we can claim vegan friendly through that, which is great. From an efficiency point of view, we started with this particular sort of type of bottle and scenario, sort of look, or not look, but like type of bottle to achieve efficiency in the future. So it's a common bottle. It can be sourced from multiple different places. So if there is, if we do have issues with shipping, we know we can get this bottle very quickly. So we can, and that it can be labeled via a machine. There's lots of different efficiencies, and also the cap and boxes and so forth. All of those things are very streamlined at this point, and they have been since we started with this view to scale up always. the only change really when we add a new SKU is the liquid and the label. So so that represents just, so well, look, it makes it easier for us, but also in terms of the future and scalability. So from talking about the core range, sort of from more of what it is and tastes like, we feel like at this stage we feel like we've covered off a really good selection of, you know, from people that like a sweeter gin to a drier gin to a fragrant, more floral style gin to something a bit spicy. And actually, Roy, if you can go on to the next page, click to the next one. And then also we've got, and we can't forget our vodka, which is we think one of the smoothest vodkas in Australia. This vodka is a sippable vodka that you don't have to sort of try and hide with a cocktail. And then also we've got our espresso, which when people try that, it's like a light bulb moment going off. It's a really incredible drink. So, and then of course we've just released the watermelon, which has really changed people's perspective from just drinking with tonic. Now people look at this and go, "Oh, I'm going to make something fun like a gin sour," or they'll splash it with solo or something different. So so really proud of where we are with this particular mix. And of course, now we're looking towards putting in rum into this core range in the coming years. So I think that's enough from me. But thank you for listening. Sorry.
The one thing I would call out and would be around why we've specifically limited the SKUs. So we want to keep our range efficient and tight for, you know, SKU and inventory productivity reasons. And Shane sort of touched on that about having a common bottle. But also from a portfolio perspective, the temptation is to build 50 different types of gins. And it's quite easy to do. But when we talk to our retailers, we talk to them about bringing new users into the gin category. One of the biggest issues with the gin category is not gin itself, it's actually tonic water. So a lot of people don't like tonic water. So when we bring products to market, we always think about the products that you just don't have with tonic. So on the previous screen, you would have seen a chai gin. We built that chai gin to have with ginger beer. The watermelon gin is designed to have with lemonade or solo type product. Oceanic is designed to have in a sort of a really salty, briny martini. And the espresso and the vodka are for a classic espresso martini. So when we talk to our retailers, we talk about bringing new users into their category, which adds category value. And because we're a premium product, it helps the category drive up. So that strategy's worked really well with the more sophisticated retailers like Coles, who look at shopper data and consumer data, and they know that one of the biggest challenges with the gin category is the tonic. And a lot of people don't like it. And you can liken that if you've ever sort of seen the CC and Dry Canadian Club advertising around over beer. That was their strategy. It was around bringing new users into a category for people that didn't like drinking beer anymore. And that's been part of our strategy, and we'll be really deliberate about the types of products we launch, how we target them, and how we sell those to the retailers. Jumping into the next bit to talk about our marketing business strategy. And we can talk for ages about this, but you're going to see a lot of this in the offer document where we flesh it out in a lot more detail. But from a headline, there's really 3 layers or 3 pillars. Our international sales of Antipodes into prioritized markets. So we've worked with an international sales consultant from the alcohol industry with loads of contacts and experience in international markets. And we've done a filtering exercise to prioritize the markets. And those markets are actually Japan, UK, Spain, and Canada. And that's where we've already started conversation with distributors in those markets for ranging for during 2024. Shane's actually over in IFE, which is one of the biggest trade shows in London next month, to present Antipodes to a number of distributors and start that journey as well. So we believe that we've got a great market in Australia, but we know we're small. And when we designed Antipodes, it was our way of having a classier way of saying down under. into overseas markets. You know, particularly the Northern Hemisphere refer to Australians and New Zealanders as Antipodeans. Hence the name. If you've had our product, you'd see a map of the Australian, New Zealand, Antipodes region on the inside of the back label, and it's sort of a classier way of saying, you know, down under, or you know, g'day, or having koalas or kangaroos on your pack. We're doing a different sort of approach. And so we know we've got a strong right to win in certain markets, and they're the markets we'll be aggressively pursuing in 2024, and we've already started. We're doing a good job in Australia, but we know we can do more. And our domestic plans really focus on broadening our distribution and availability. It's not necessarily about launching another 10 products. We've already got a great range. It's around making sure those products are visible and available in retailers and bars and restaurants. And then also launching consumer relevant innovation and increasing brand awareness. And some of that innovation we're looking to launch is in adjacent categories like the ready to drink category, where you'd have a gin and tonic or a pink gin spritz in a can that's ready to drink. And as Shane mentioned earlier, also commencement of rum production. So we've done a lot of work over the last 12 months, working through the different styles and blends of molasses that we'd want to use and the yeast strains, and being able to scale that up now is what we're focused on doing. And, you know, one of the challenges of rum, it needs to sit there in the distillery, sitting in barrels for a minimum of 2 years in the maturation process for it to actually be called rum in Australia. But that will provide a medium to longer term runway of growth into FY26 and beyond, and something we're really excited to be launching. And if I just jump on the last slide to talk about there will be, you know, firstly, why we choosing this platform to raise funds. We've been growing for 9 years. We've been in business, and we've effectively bootstrapped the business through that period, as you know, founders do. We don't have any external financing, as you might have heard Brad mention. So no debt in the business. We have some small founder loans that have no sort of payment dates on them, under $40,000, but no debt. We own all of the assets, so all of the stills and equipment, etc., are fully owned by the company. And we really want to start now that we've got a business that's, you know, I've talked about the auditing, I've talked about our, you know, major retailers that we're in. We're now about gearing up for growth. And so that investment will really go into four key areas, being into the facility to increase production capacity. So one of our, you know, bottlenecks, pardon the pun, is our bottling line. It is quite a manual operation from a filling and a labeling perspective. So we know that automating that will unlock great efficiencies and capacity, as well as some small storage tanks. And the benefit of that as well is, as our scale increases through automation and less labour costs, the cost per bottle reduces significantly as well. Sales focus roles in both international and domestic. And for those of you in the sales industry who have been involved in sales, we know that those roles will generally pay for themselves after being in the company for a little while, and unlocking those international markets and really building that availability through selling to retailers, but also working with our distributors in Australia to drive revenue. Innovation and brand support, so launching into categories like RTDs, as well as sustaining the brand support that we're doing in Antipodes to keep it top of mind. So as when consumers are going into stores, they're understanding the things we're talking about in terms of certified organic or certified sustainable, or, you know, how you should be drinking chai gin with ginger beer, etc. So we remain top of mind so that we're becoming more of a default purchase in store. And rum, as I mentioned, we can't sell it for 2 years, so it's effectively inventory and working capital for that rum production. Brad mentioned we will store up to 100 barrels in our warehouse facility, but that will effectively, we can't touch it for 2 years until we can start releasing that into the market from FY26 and beyond. So with that, Emily, I think, like I said, we can talk forever about our business. Like, we love our business and we love talking to people, and we've talked to many investors over the last couple of weeks. But we might just leave it there because there's a lot of other things that will come out, obviously, in the offer document, and maybe just jump more to some Q&A.
Well, yeah, I think that you're going to be able to keep going talking about your business with the Q&A.
Emily, I do have something fun to share. We've been through this process. It's, you know, we've been really, you know, talking to so many people, and as of today, we picked up a new customer, or new, like, a really important outlet for us. and it's with Lagardère International Duty Free. So we'll be, we've got we've had a little bit of a touch of stuff with them in the past, but now they've accepted us into Adelaide Airport, into their duty free. Now, Adelaide is really, it's sort of smashed with all these distilleries. None of them do, I think there's only maybe one that does some organic work. So, excuse me, it's a real, like, we're just excited because it's such a like a dominated area, and to be in duty free for people leaving and coming into Adelaide in Australia, we're really excited to be part of that. So we're just filling out the paperwork today, which is excellent to get into that. So we're and we know that there's some really positive conversations happening with other duty free airports and sort of really sort of great customers. So it's a great win today. So
that's absolutely huge. Congratulations.
Thanks.
I'd love to get some news in the middle of a campaign. That's great.
Yeah.
I think we just all heard that for the first time too, Emily. So we're all excited about that. Thanks for that.
sorry, sorry, not
great.
sharing. Yeah.
Let the cat out of the bag. It's fine. No worries. I know you were saying that there are some organic gins on the market, even at Adelaide Airport. So what's the portion of gin distilleries that have the organic sustainable certification?
For certified sustainable, none. There's one distillery, that's ourselves, and there's a few in brewing. I think there's 3 breweries that are certified sustainable, and a couple of wineries that have started on that journey. But that certification is also only a few years old. And I didn't mention it, Emily, but from a greenwashing perspective, that's something that people are becoming more and more untrusting of brands that claim sustainability without backing it up. So we're proud to be able to back it up with certification. But I do think that more and more will go down the certified sustainable path. On organics, there's a handful. In gin, I think there's only 4 or 5 that have certified organics. There's a couple that claim organic, but that's not really certified. And that just means you can have 5% of your product organic. So certified organic and having the logo on the pack is what's really critical. And they're just, a lot of those are local distilleries that are sort of servicing a regional town or some other things. There's no one else really listed at a national level.
Yeah, awesome.
And Emily, I think, and also what we've certainly discovered when we're out shopping and doing our thing, is that there's a lot of these claims organic, and then for us we turn the pack around and we look who they with, because there's 2 or 3 sort of obvious places where you get this certification from. But it's easy to put this on the front of your pack, but to actually get the certification is audits. It's so much more than that. So like it's potentially just as much as our taxation sort of commitments with the ATO. So it is misleading when being involved in a certification body gives the customer the trust that it is done.
To probably put some context to that, Emily, the question about proportion. So there's over 400 distilleries in Australia, and there's only, as Rory said, a handful that are certified organic. So it's the 1%ers, and we're by far the largest.
So I know that that's been something that's really important with you guys, and working with you for the past few weeks. It's something that's really been hammered home. Why is it so important for you to be certified organic and certified sustainable?
When we started the business, we were starting our journey as dads as well. So we've all got young families, anywhere from sort of 1-year-old through to sort of 11-year-olds. And the business has been going for 9 years. So we've got six kids between us. And when we were reflecting, and I didn't know too much about sustainability, and when I was younger, I didn't probably care too much about organics. But that inflection point really happened for ourselves when we became dads as well, and you start to think more about what you're doing to the planet, what legacy you're leaving. If we're going to start a business, what sort of business should we start? And that manifested into a lot of conversations around treading lightly on the planet, sustainability, building the best business we could. And my background is FMCG, consumer goods. I've done it for 30 years. And every company is now trying to unwind their legacy of products and do things like sustainability. And it's hard for them because they've had, 20, 30 years of building brands that aren't sustainable or they do impact the environment. We've built it from day one to be in this space so that we don't have to go and unwind it. We can just keep doing it. And then also being part of Certified Sustainable in particular, you've got to commit to continuous improvement. You can't just do it, get a certification and then sit still. So we want to continue to be at the cutting edge and have other brands, try and catch up, because if a whole category moves in that direction, it's got to be a good thing, right?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And it's really inspiring to hear that you're thinking ahead, thinking about the future generation and what you're leaving behind essentially in terms of your legacy, which is awesome. So I know that you mentioned that your facilities are leased, but your equipment is your own. So is it just the land that's leased? And can you comment on your current terms of lease, or if there's any plans to purchase some land or facilities moving forward?
I can
Brad, do
answer
you
that.
want
Yes,
to grab that one?
Yeah. So we do have leases in place at the moment that take us through to the end of this year and next year, with options to extend. The leasing arrangement's obviously a good arrangement because it gives us the flexibility to upsize and move to different sites, as opposed to trying to buy something that's going to be suitable for the future. So a leasing arrangement is a better arrangement in this circumstance for us. But we do have the options to extend on the current site or look at other options depending on how we scale up.
Great answer. Makes a whole heap of sense. What was the whiskey distillery brand that you took over the premises from?
That was Baldwin Distillery.
What happened to Baldwin Distillery?
We looked to go into doing some brown spirits with them initially, but unfortunately their position wasn't as strong as ours. So we were able to pick up the site and look after take over the equipment and take over the entire site. Rory, I'm sure you could speak better to that than I can.
Yeah, they were financially challenged. Brad's been very politically correct, but they were in a lot of financial trouble. So we took over all the equipment and took over the leases, and that's why we moved to Canberra, which has been one of the questions, why Canberra, but that was the reason. And that site was available, so it actually sped up our process to get into our own equipment. But unfortunately, it was through an asset sale from a challenged business.
And
I think
and
just
also,
on the sorry, might be worth mentioning that you would be seeing in the press and lots of breweries and distilleries who are a bit challenged at the moment, and there's things around excise, and one of the big challenges a lot of businesses are catching up on their ATO requirements. That sort of ATO, I guess, gave everyone a bit of a grace period through the COVID era, and now they're sort of putting a bit of pressure, and we've seen a lot of breweries in particular go into administration recently. And it's something I do want to talk about because we're proud of it, that we are completely up to date with all of our obligations, and doesn't matter if that's our BAS payments or our excise obligations or our superannuation, etc. That's something, we're in a great financial position from that regard with no debt. And that puts us in a different sort of space compared to a lot of other distilleries. The financial strength of our business is something that we're, proud of, and, effectively self-funded for 9 years. But now we're at a point where we do want to scale up.
Awesome. So in terms of your contracts that you've got, I know you've just mentioned that you've got a new one at Adelaide Airport. Do you have any more details on the Coles Group contract in terms of the length? Are you looking to continue this? Are there any restrictions related to it?
Yeah, so it's not, we don't have a contract length as such, but we have committed exclusivity to them. And what effectively exclusivity means is don't be in Dan Murphy's and BWS. That's what they look to do, and Dan Murphy's did the same thing. So they want to partner with exclusive brands. For my sins, I used to work for Coles years ago, and I know some of the team there quite well, and we know how the environment is and how it works. And so they are a great partner, despite what you see in the press at the moment. We've had nothing but a good time with Coles Group. and being in our original and pink gin and our small 200 ml espresso and our Juniper 3 product is in a varied amount of their stores, and we're looking to continue to increase that distribution. And they were super excited when we became certified sustainable, and we're going to continue to work with them to do that. It doesn't stop us in the future doing something like launching another brand with, say, Dan Murphy's or BWS, that would be certified organic, etc. Because Dan Murphy's have, how many years, Shane? They've asked for the last 7 years to take Antipodes, but we've been obviously committed to the Coles Group.
Yes.
So we could look to do another brand, but they're a great partner. They are our biggest customer, and we do really well with them.
So it might have answered the question I was going to say is, why the Coles Group versus Dan Murphy's?
There was some existing relationships we had with the Coles team, from my background. But a lot of those buyers have changed. Buyers change every sort of year. But we did get in, and when we went in, that was 7 years ago, and we were in our infancy. If we had done it today, we might have done it slightly differently. But back then, it was the right thing to do. It really helped us scale up quickly, get our products in front of hundreds of thousands of consumers that shop at those stores. So it is a great partnership, but that's why we started with Coles Group originally. It's not to say we won't work with Dan's in the future, but we get additional, I guess, support and focus from Coles because we are exclusive with them at the moment. So I guess it's a bit of a case of don't rock the boat while it's working. We do enjoy and appreciate the partnership we have with Coles Group, but we know there's a lot more we can do with Coles Group as well. We're definitely not done. In fact, we're flying with them. We're growing at about 120% with Coles at the moment.
Huge. Yeah, absolutely answers the question of why you want to stay with them. Makes a lot of sense.
Well, they've been very incredibly stable too. Like they've been with us through, good times and bad. So that's a really great thing about them. And no offense to Dan Murphy's, of course, but we've really seen this great support from them. So, and even as Rory was saying, in and out of different buyers and different team, they've been very solid. So, and it's great for a business like us.
Awesome. So I've had a few questions come through about when people will be able to see the details and the investment, price per share, minimum investment, what the gross margins are, any kind of financials. So I can answer that one actually. It will be when the offer goes live next week. You'll be able to have access to the offer document, which will have details of the financials, the minimum and maximum investment amounts, your raised targets, share prices, all of those things. So please look out for that. You'll get a lot of notifications from the virtual team, from the Antipodes team. It will be everywhere. Make sure you've expressed interest in the campaign so that you get first dibs on shares, because they will be limited though. So in terms of your growth, I know that you guys have come to us because you've got a really engaged community. Is that the reason why you've decided to go down the equity crowdfunding route versus other forms of funding?
Yeah, look, when we had a session with Rowan actually. Rowan supports our business with business strategy and financials as well. And we worked through and we discussed a number of different funding options. We could keep doing what we've done for the last 9 years, like bootstrapping the business, and as profit comes in, we invest it back into the business. We could look to take on some external debt. And then we discussed the opportunity of doing crowdsource funding. There's two reasons crowdsource funding is appealing over, say, traditional financing. The black and the white and the blunt side of it, we're not paying interest every year on a bank loan that is unproductive to run a business with. So if we wanted to raise X amount of money, we're paying 6, 7, 8% every year. And effectively that money becomes dead money that we can't invest in the business. So that's the sort of the black and white of it. The emotional side of it is, we have some really passionate advocates that just buy and drink and enjoy our product. And the discussion led to what would it look like if we actually had, there's 3 shareholders at the moment, Brad, Shane, and myself. what would it look like if we had hundreds of ourselves that were passionate about the product, the brand, advocates for the business, and wanted to be part of that journey. And ever since day one, when we put our back label on our product, it always said, come on the Antipodes journey with us. And it continues to resonate. And I don't think it's more important today, actually, like when we think of what we're doing. We're welcoming people onto that Antipodes journey, joining our business on the journey that we're on as shareholders, as brand advocates, and the conversations, and maybe Shane and Brad can talk to it as well. Over the last 2 weeks with investors is just the energy people have wanted to talk to us about, the ideas that have been coming forward. People have been suggesting all sorts of great stuff about what we could do with the business and how they'd love to help and things like that. So we're getting that sort of snowball momentum, Emily. It's been really great.
Awesome. Obviously, we love to hear it here at Virtual.
Emily, there's, just in the last couple of days of talking to people, I've had at least 2 people sort of say that they could jump on the plane with me to go to London and try and find a UK distributor. So, and that's just, and then everybody else has just really shown us lots of love and said, just love it. Want to back a good Australian business, love it. So but yeah, with the 2 people wanting, if you're out there, get some tickets and come. I'd love to have you aboard with me. So thank you.
I love it. I mean, it's something that we've experienced a lot here at Virtual. It's companies that come on board to obviously raise funds, but then you're exposed to a whole new audience of potential investors who could be instrumental in the growth of your company in terms of logistics, connections, partnerships, all of those things, which is really exciting. So if there is anybody who's watching this and thinking, hey, I know this person, I'd love to connect them, it's a really beautiful partnership and relationship that you can have with brands. So feel free to reach out. I think the team at Antipodes would love it. So I know you guys are currently registered in Vic. Do you know if the company is going to move to Vic, or will it always be in the ACT?
It's a bit of a loaded question, that one, Emily, but I guess we've always considered the location being Canberra for a couple of reasons. That's where that distillery was, and setting up a distillery in the site, it's not just the assets that you own. There's lots in terms of electrical and plumbing and things that go into a site. So we are in Canberra at the moment, but as Brad mentioned, based on our growth, we're eventually going to be constrained by space and power. They're 2 elements out of our current site that is a limiting factor. One of the pros of Canberra, it's 100% renewable energy. We've got our team's based there. It's a great site. One of the other challenges with Canberra, though, is it's not really built for making stuff. It's the home of the politicians and consultants. So there is a challenge around actually manufacturing in Canberra. It is harder to do than in other places. And also the cost of doing things becomes a bit more expensive when you're effectively double freighting things if your biggest places are Melbourne and Sydney. And as we go international, we'd be exporting from most likely Sydney. Having products sort of shipped back and forth and things like that can add some cost. So we'll weigh up all of those things as we see our growth profile and start to think in the next period of time what a fit for purpose distillery looks like and the location.
Yeah, fantastic. Makes a whole heap of sense. I think it's always something that we get asked is, oh, are you going to open up another facility in this location or this location? And it's a huge operation to try and do such things.
Yeah, it is. And we've the biggest question we get is, do you have a cellar door? Can we come and visit? And the answer is we don't, because we focus on the production facility. And we don't have a cellar door where people can come in and do tastings, because all of the time, effort, and energy is into production. But there is consideration of how do we give people a cellar door / retail experience elsewhere, and that might be something we consider in other places. So people can come and understand how we do it, the products, get to taste everything, but not have to get to the distillery as well. Because for those that don't know, it is in Mitchell in Canberra. It's sort of the only place you make stuff in Canberra. but it's an industrial area. It's not the sexiest place. So we want to make sure we have our brand in places where people can enjoy it and try it, and that might take the form of a retail place somewhere in other locations.
Yeah, fantastic. Over the years that you guys have been in operation, have you done any exciting partnerships with other brands, or are you looking to do that in the future?
I can answer a quick one with that. We're actually about to team up with the Midnight Hotel in Canberra, which is pretty exciting. So yeah, there's a few elements to it. We haven't completely finished that whole look and feel of what's going to happen, but yeah, we're really excited. That's probably probably maybe what like it might be a bit of it could be like a pop-up cellar door. So that'll be really great and very helpful for us, of course, because as Rory said, we've got a production-focused facility. So yeah, that's a great start, I think. It's a great hotel in Canberra, and yeah, we're looking forward to it.
So if I could just add though, in the past couple of years, we have done a couple of other things with products. So our barrel age range, for example, we've worked with local wineries, have certified organic barrels that we use to put down we have a Chardonnay, a Pinot and a Shiraz gin. And that's with Tamberlane Organic Winery and Lark Hill. So they've been great partnerships. We launched specific products into Star City Casino, the Sydney Yacht Club, where it was Antipodes and the Sydney Yacht Club and things like that. So the flexibility of the distillery, and as Shane mentioned earlier, all you have to do is change the front label. We can do partnerships and things like that relatively easily. So we're always looking for those things, but life's busy, Emily, and until we get some dedicated salespeople into the business to provide that additional support, we've been a little constrained. That's why we're seeking this investment.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually tried all of those barrel-aged gins. Thank you guys for sending some of those to the office. They were beautiful. I actually took your advice and made some of the oceanic martinis on the weekend. So absolutely beautiful. If you haven't tried them, anybody, I would recommend you get on to giving it a crack. As the boys have said, try before you buy. In terms of that, are you actually intending on giving any rewards to investors this round?
Yes, we are. We haven't defined all of those, but we'll definitely be having a investor reward, which will be revealed next week. And that might take the form of a product or ongoing discounts, etc.
Fantastic. I know everyone will be looking out for that. Do you have any information on the marketing strategy that you're looking to achieve in the future to increase brand awareness, or will this be outlined in the offer document?
Shane, do you want to touch on that?
Well, look, for us, it's firstly we're looking to. We've got an overseas consultant that we've been engaging with, and now we're actively looking into the several overseas markets. Apart from that sort of beginning that we're doing now, we're also, of course, and then heading to IFE in UK, which is later on in March. But yeah, locally though, it's about now using getting into or finding a new distributor to look after some of the unserviced states that we don't have any distribution for, and then and basically support those distributors and customers through this journey. So yeah, Rory.
Shane, if I could jump in,
yeah.
From a marketing perspective, Emily, we want to keep getting Antipodes more top of mind. So the two areas, and we've had a great response on Facebook and Instagram just with our Antipodes, the virtual expression of interest campaign, which is actually fed through into a number of other things in our Instagram and Facebook and followers, etc. So we're going to continue to amplify that to remain top of mind. So you'll be seeing a lot more Antipodes out there. We have a separate PR strategy. We're working with a PR agency to get some more traditional media placement over the coming months. particularly around certified sustainable and certified organics, and being the only Australian distillery doing it. So that's going to again amplify and make us more top of mind. And then given that we're in Coles Liquor Group, and everyone knows their local Liquorland or First Choice or vintage cellars, we'll focus more on some of the path to purchase type media. So outdoor media is really good. So things like bus shelters and those outdoor posters and things like that. So that we're more top of mind as people are going into stores to purchase. So we're really clear on that marketing side. The sales and distribution stuff, there's always more to do. We can't just tell people about our brand. You've got to be visible and available to purchase as well, or to drink at a bar. So we've got to complement that with distribution and getting into more places. But this sort of last 6-9 months, particularly with Coles Group, the promotions we've been doing, the advertising we've been doing, we've been having a great time, and we're growing really strongly. And it will be in the offer document, but in the last 6 months up until December, we're growing at 40%. In the last 2 months up until the end of February, we're growing at 66%. And we want to take that momentum and keep putting it back into the business and growing it faster.
Terrific. I know a lot of your gins use native Australian ingredients. What inspires the flavour profiles for you when you're creating new products?
I think one of the things that Rory's touched on before is around how we breaking new categories and looking at those different mixes. So it's not just about how you create one simple a gin that's standalone. It's about how it complements other mixes, they can bring new users into the market. So some of the other products we've looked at is chai is a classic example of that we've recently had, that was about designing something specifically around new users and a ginger beer or ginger ale. So we looked at a couple of different mixes there. So our thought process is always around how is this not just going to be another simple flavour? It's about how we also can be widening the breadth of the users that we bring on board.
To that, where do you source your ingredients?
Multiple places all over Australia. So yeah, there's we have some sites that are all certified organic. So most of them are listed sites through any of the certified organic websites. There's sort of 5 typical ones that we can get them through, or authorities, I should say. And there are some ingredients that are wild harvested ones that we need to go and gain approval. Rory's touched on the high admin that goes through our processes in bringing new ingredients on board as well. So, and the ongoing admin that we need to work with the authorities on to ensure that we're getting appropriate ingredients. So yeah, so there's all across Australia, Emily, is probably the short answer to that.
It's a labour of love.
And Emily, some of these are, quite sort of established companies and food and sort of food sort of industry suppliers. But then some of the relationships are with the farmers in the middle of Western Australia. Those particular sort of suppliers or farmers that we deal with. We have to be very careful because we've got to make sure that they've got enough stock, or they've got to make sure they've got enough stock for all of their customers. And there's a lot of, it's all weather dependent too, because these natural or native and indigenous botanicals it relies on the actual weather to produce them, not chemicals and sort of farming, traditional sort of like mass farming techniques. So it's a challenge, and also having making sure that they're all adhering to this sustainable practices that we're wanting them to adopt it all, but also not using chemicals, not using pesticides, not using GMO. So it's a balancing act, but that's the fun part about it. To make something unique, it can't be easy. So,
yeah, 100%. And it really shows the way that you guys talk about it. You're obviously very passionate about ensuring that you've got the best possible ingredients, you're treading lightly. So can you explain a little bit about the difference between certified carbon neutral versus certified sustainable?
Yeah, so we don't claim certified carbon neutral,
No.
but what we do is we offset by planting trees anyway, and we do that with carbon neutral. So carbon neutral is a company based in Western Australia, and we partner with them, and we have since day one, and we plant trees, and we've planted nearly 12,000 trees. We use 100% renewable energy. I think if we actually did a certification audit, we would be certified carbon neutral. Haven't got to that one yet. It's on the list of things to do. But certified sustainable looks at not just the carbon footprint, it looks at all processes in the business. So yes, it does look at the carbon footprint, like our electricity usage and things like that, but it also takes into account our packaging, our continuous improvement processes around how we produce our product, our waste, and elements like that. So it's more of an end-to-end certification, whereas carbon neutral really focuses on what's your carbon footprint and how do you offset it. So that's a slightly different sort of approach. We don't think wouldn't say one's better than the other. They sort of focus on different things. And it's probably a certification we might look to achieve in the future. It's just about time, effort, paperwork to get that done. I think we'd be pretty confident we'd be able to achieve it, given we know what our footprint's like. But it's just something we haven't done at this stage, Emily.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. I've actually never considered the significant difference between it. So maybe something that we can look out for in the future. So oh no, you go.
I'd just probably say like all of those things, and we might have touched on it, but all of those elements combined are what makes our business different. And a lot of the things, whether it's, Shane explained about sourcing, ingredients from Western Australia and Northern Territory, which is hard to do, certified organics, certified sustainable, they're all really hard to do. But that's actually what gives us a unique point of difference, because it's actually a really hard act to copy. And with 400 plus distilleries out there at the moment, there's probably going to be 600 in a few years. Why we are confident in our business is continuing to be unique. And it's not unique in terms of we're doing something completely different. We're just actually a hard act to follow. And I think if you're going to do something, you should focus on doing that. And as investors, and we're talking and appealing to investors, we're not just another gin distillery from that regard. We do focus on those things that are hard to do. And that actually makes our job a lot easier when we go and talk to retailers and bars and restaurants and things like that.
Yeah, I bet. So for people who are looking to invest in the company, will they receive a copy of the annual reports for the previous years along with the offer document, or can they get a copy on request? Does anyone know the answer to that one for annual reports for previous years?
We seem to have a little bit of a frozen.
Yeah, so in the offer document will be the financials for the previous couple of years. We can talk offline about other financial information, which we might be able to discuss offline. Yeah.
Terrific. I don't think we've got any more. Oh, you've come.
He's come back. Rory's come back. Look, Ryan, that's a good question. What you're saying to Brad, yes. Look, if anyone's quite interested, we can get Rowan and Rory to answer that, talk through those things upon request. But yeah, lots of detail in the offer document.
Sorry, apologies for dropping out. Wi-Fi challenge. Had you join back in? Did I miss anything, Emily, or do you need any?
No, you're lucky. Brad and Shane have saved the day and let everybody know everything. That's fine.
It was the only time for me, I think.
No, it worked out perfectly. But yeah, there will be a lot of information that is in the offer document, which we encourage everybody to read before investing. That will be released next week when the offer goes live. So please take a look out for that, including the minimum and maximum investment amount that will be in there as well. But I don't think we've got any more questions now. So I'll round us off here. I'll be sending around the recording. So if anybody missed all part of or want to go back, please feel free to watch again. If anyone's got any questions for the Birchal team, please reach out at birchal.com, or please reach out to the Antipodes Gin team. There is a button on their profile that says message, and you will be able to message the team any questions you might have. A big thank you to everybody who came today to watch, and thank you so much for the Antipodes team. We really appreciate it and really excited to see your offer go live.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Take care.